that's what happened last time.
That's what happened last time.
So next story, which is our official story. I'm going to play this video. And I'm going to try to play just part of the video. And, okay. So I'm going to say a couple things really quick about the video. And then why we're doing it. And then I'm going to play the video. So this is a video about, a clip from Dylan Mulvaney's Day 365 Womanhood. As many of you know, he had like celebrations at the Rockefeller Center, which is wow. And, you know, I think most people know he was a famous performer before. So he had a celebration. And I'm going to play a clip. I've said before, I don't necessarily want to be, everybody's talking about Dylan. Like, nothing that I would really say would be any new information. Everybody's talking about him. So the whole purpose is not necessarily to talk about him. It's to talk about some of the things said in the clip. And then we'll go from there. So let me pull up the section. 1 second. Yeah. Pull the section I want you guys to hear. So before, I'm not going to play the very beginning of the clip. So I'll just describe it. So what happens is he plays clips from the Ben Shapiro show, Matt Walsh, who everybody knows I personally do not like. Candace Owens, and I think Brett, the new girl at the Daily Wire. So a bunch of Daily Wire people. Mm-hmm. So Dylan plays a clip of them, of things that they've said that hurt his feelings about him. And then this is like what he says. This is like the scene next. Can you hear it?
I did. I showed it.
What? Why would you give them even a second of your big day?
Well, these are the people I have to deal with on a regular basis, so I thought I should include them in the evening.
But that doesn't mean you have to listen to them.
Well, I've always loved a little constructive criticism.
Baby, there's nothing constructive about that.
And it's not just criticism, it's indoctrination.
Actually, wait, that's not... Whatever. Okay. Oops. And I'll link this tweet with the video so you guys can see the full thing.
I don't know what their goal is, but I do know how they make me feel now that I've built up a thicker skin. It doesn't hurt me. Do you want to feel how it feels? Do you want to know that it doesn't hurt me? Do you want to hear about the deal I'm making? My response going forward, it's not over-explaining myself. It's not pleading. It's not expecting kindness from someone who has no kindness to give. My response is in the next joyous video that I make. That's my response. And if I only could, I'd make a deal with God, not get him to swap our places. Can we pause there? I'm going to say something that might make people feel a little bit uncomfortable. I'm trying really hard to maintain a relationship with God, and I don't think that he made a mistake with me. And that maybe one day I will actually be grateful for being trans. That this isn't some curse, but it's just a different path to the same destination. Be running up that.
Okay. So.
Wow.
I know. So that's what I wanted to discuss. Okay. Do you want me? You want me to go? You go first, and then because I have a lot to say. You probably have a lot to say too.
You know what? I have a few things, but I'm probably gonna have more once I hear your story, your side, because I haven't really heard your thoughts on this yet. Okay. So this is new. But initially,
I just added this, you guys.
Like an hour ago.
Yeah.
So I think that we've established. I think we should first say that, of course, like any empathy that I have for Dylan isn't supporting the decision to become trans, but of course Dylan is still a human being, and I'm worried that certain conservative leaders aren't recognizing that this is a human being, and we can disagree with that decision without being excruciatingly hateful. I'm looking at the comment right now that Matt Walsh has said while attached to this, and he says, his tears during this rehearsed performance are as authentic as everything else about him, which is to say they are totally contrived and manipulative. Just more emotional blackmail meant to shut down completely valid criticism against his degrading of womanhood. I don't think it's fair to say that he's not genuine.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair to say that, like, the tears aren't real. It just really bothers me when, and I don't know if Matt Walsh is a Christian. I imagine he probably
says he's a Catholic.
Would consider himself Christian. Yeah. So honestly, there's nothing that boils my blood more than being hateful in the name of Christ or being harmful. And that's what I think Matt Walsh is doing. I think we need to respond with love. Let's just play Matt Walsh's game. Let's say we want to convict Dylan. Let's say we want to bring Dylan back to us and to our side and to be convicted of the Christian philosophy. How are we going to do that?
Right.
And I think people like Matt Walsh know in their heart being aggressive isn't going to do it, because Dylan's going to do stuff like this and get a lot of sympathy for it, rightfully so, which only makes us look stupider.
And to add to what you said, people are not going to I'm going to say this first thing about Matt Walsh. I think what can happen, and it happens to all of us, and this is why we need to take breaks. You can get so into everything that's going on. I think that the kids call it black-pilled, where you're just so angry about everything, so then you're kind of at the end of the day, we're wrestling against flesh and blood. I'm sorry, we're not wrestling against flesh and blood. We're wrestling against the principalities and the rulers of the darkness of this world. So I think that you can lose track of that, which happens. And I think that's kind of what is happening with Matt Walsh. Like, it's no secret. I do not like him because I also don't think he's helpful. And I think that, first of all, to say, it says, authentic is everything else about him, which is to say they are totally contrived and manipulative and more emotional blackmail meant to shut down completely valid criticism. I've criticized Dylan before, and I will again if I feel something else needs to happen. Like, I don't feel those tears didn't make me shut down. I'll explain how they made me feel, and then we're going to transition to the topic more. But that doesn't change. But to me, they felt real and authentic. And perfect transition. I think they felt real and authentic to me because personally, I know how it feels to, ask God to take you out of the body that you're in. I think that a lot of people do. Some people don't. Like, I have a friend who said she loves her body and she's in a really good place. Love that for her. But I'm not, and and some of you listening aren't either. So I know how that feels. So that's why.
And that's valid and it's real. It's
right.
Not false. And the tears you cry because of that are not a pathetic falsehood.
Right. And that's a real feeling and emotion. And I would guess that maybe Matt Walsh hasn't felt that way. I don't know. I don't know his life. But I think that, to me, that's what this comes off as. Like, you really don't understand, how it feels to feel that way. And I just want to add something that I've been thinking about, I've been discussing in, a politics group chat I'm in. Our podcast is for women. Whether women watch it on YouTube or not is yet to be determined.
I'm flabbergasted.
But this podcast is for women. So we're reaching out to women. And we can establish men and women are different. Men and women are different. Women, we are emotional. We are empathetic. We care about those things. So that's how we're going to respond. And we don't have to be sorry about that. We don't have to we don't have to be masculine to understand the men. We don't have to do that. So, you know, the approach you would take to like discussing issues that women would care about is going to be different than you would for men. I'm sorry. And that is the difference, I think, between, well, one of the differences between Matt Walsh and like us, for example. Like Matt Walsh is this totally contrived, manipulative, and that whole soliloquy he did a couple of weeks ago about calling Dylan, you know, eerily and all that other stuff. That approach works well for men, but it doesn't work for women. And that's okay. You never compromise the truth, but you don't have to be mean. Like, that's what I just want us to like think about and realize and understand.
Well, what do you mean by it works well for men?
I mean, men, like, men can tell other men, like, hey, you really need to lose weight. Great example. Like, men can be like, hey, you really need to lose weight, and the man will, like, receive that and, like, work on himself. Whereas, like, women, I feel like, I'll just say, so some of my guy friends, like, when they have told me I needed to work on my weight, the way they've said it has been kind of like, okay, that's kind of harsh, and that actually kind of hurts.
Yeah.
Whereas, like,
and they probably don't see it that way.
No, they don't see it that way at all.
Got it.
Like that meme where they're like, when you're venting to your male friends and like they're saying something and you're like crying, like that's literally like that's how guys are, and that's okay because we're different. So we don't have to like, all right, women, buck up. Like you don't have to do that, but you can at least just be kind and like show some empathy and caring about people. And
exactly.
So that was my thought on Matt Walsh in this whole debacle.
And I think between men and women, there needs to be a give and take. Like men, probably most men understand women could use some, you know, just cushioning of a message.
Yes.
And, you know, hopefully men can understand that. And of course we should and can work on understanding that, like,
being a little bit more direct.
They can be honest. They can, and that's not what they're saying. Like, it's not how I would probably have communicated it, but there needs to be a give and take. And I don't feel like Matt Walsh's approach, while yeah, it's harsh and it's kind of how men would respond, and he's probably getting a lot of men like loving this compared to women. That's never an excuse to be rude.
Yeah. I agree completely. Sure. And I think that's kind of why we have this issue where the statistics, all these single women are not voting Republican. Well, part of it is we need to figure out, how are we talking to them? How are we are we talking down to people? Like, how is our message coming across?
I do think that the left is so good at that emotional tie. Of,
yes.
Like, women are dying. Like, poor Roberta,
yeah,
you know, has to face this unplanned pregnancy. Like, we don't have anything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, we have some really cool pro-life stories, but like CNN, like in NBC, like NPR isn't covering that. Isn't covering the amazing choice of life, you know?
Yes. We need to be better at storytelling. And I had a friend say this to me a couple months, or maybe a couple years ago at this point, that we need to be better at storytelling. The left is really good at that. And the reality is, like, you know, going hard on Dylan and things like that, most women even are going to be empathetic. Even if they disagree, they're going to be empathetic, and it's not really going to help going hard on this person like that. Now, I want to say, I do not think that what they're doing is good. I hate the whole ditzy girl, and like, I am a very proud woman, and I can't, irks my soul when you know, biological men are taking women's spaces. We even did an episode, or taking women's awards and things like that. We even did an episode about biological men in women's sports. I'll try to remember to link that as well. So I want you to know, this is not in support of Dylan. That's not what this is. That's never going to happen on this podcast. We're just expressing, like, and what we're doing is not working, because he put those clips in a video with, I mean, first of all, at the Rockefeller Center. I mean, what type of opportunity, like, how did he get that? Let's start off with that. And I mean, people could watch this online. So and they paid like, I don't know how much they paid, but you could get the little code and watch it online. So I mean, that's people all across the world. So this didn't help the cause. I'll just put it like that. It did not help the cause. So that's all we're saying on that. Let's try, and we're not perfect. And maybe we need to, I don't think we need to be harsh. Maybe we need to be more firm and try to articulate our points a little bit better. I can admit that. That could be it.
Yep.
But one thing that's not going to happen on Those Are the Girls is we're not going to be mean to people for no reason. And we will always speak the truth. And we will always speak the truth with grace and love. What I really want to talk about also with this video is the last part where he was talking about despising hit, like he wants to believe that he's not a mistake. That is so sad to me. That like breaks my heart. Because we know that he is not. We know that he suffers from gender dysphoria, and I think that it's unfortunate that he doesn't have people in his life, or he's not listening to people in his life who would want to help him fix the gender dysphoria. That's very unfortunate because it's not going to get better unless it's treated. So that's really sad. And like I mentioned earlier, I know I don't have gender dysphoria. I love being a girl. Wouldn't change a thing. But I do know how it feels to like not like your body. And I think everyone has gone through those phases. And I think that's really something that I wanted to just talk about a little bit, especially during Women's Month. Because I think men go through it too, but I've never been a man, and no man has ever talked to me about their body issues. So like, I can't speak on that, but I can speak on being a woman, and I can speak on conversations I've had with other women. And we feel that. A lot of us feel that. Some of us feel that today. Some of us felt that last week. Some of us felt that a couple years ago. And I wanted to really talk about like, how do we like combat that? Because I'll say for myself, what never made me feel better was girls who are super pretty and seem like they have their whole life together. You know, we only see people's highlight reels, but if all you're going to show me your highlight reels, that's kind of how I'm going to view you. So, you know, girls that are super pretty with their highlight reels going, oh yeah, I know how it feels to be bad. You're beautiful too. Like, that's never been like that never made me feel better. So I'm like, of course, like you walk into a bar and everybody's heads turns. Of course I mean, you're validated constantly. That's never been for me. So what has helped me, and you know, what's helping me now is really just getting back into like, how is God viewing me? Like, what is God saying? And I think that is the root of gender dysphoria, is getting outside of like what God says. And it's hard because it sucks. Like, you want to, God only gives you one body. He doesn't, you know, after you turn 13, you don't get to go, eeny, meeny, miny, I want that one. Right. Even though in the future we might, you know, I've read a book about that. But like right now, we only have one body. So you want to at least be content. You know, not everybody's going to love their body, but you want to at least be content. So like I said, the gender dysphoria, body dysmorphia, all of that is rooted in not understanding and not focusing on like what God says. So I'm going to link this. I'm not going to read everything, but I'm going to link. I got really two good articles from gotquestions.org and Focus on the Family. And I just want to talk a little bit about both of them, and I'll try to be quick because it's going.
Oh my gosh, I have no idea. I have no idea, Mallory, where the time goes.
I don't either. So from the Got Questions, it talks about how God saw different people as beautiful. I'm just going to read this real quick. But all these people were beautiful to God. Virtually nothing is known about their physical appearance. It was not their physique or stateliness, but their faith and service that made them beautiful. The same is true with God's beautiful women: Rahab, Hannah, Ruth, Deborah, and Mary of Bethany. Those noted for physical beauty were often great spiritual disappointments. Rebecca was very beautiful, but she was also a deceiver and a manipulator. Saul was a man of physical beauty, but his disobedience against God hurt the nation of Israel. The quality that God wants in his people further reveal his concept of beauty. The Beatitudes reveal some of God's standards of beauty. An awareness of one's spiritual poverty, sorrow for wickedness, hunger and thirst for righteousness, mercy, purity of heart, and being a peacemaker are all qualities of beauty. The epistles also stress attributes valued by God. Keeping a living faith while enduring physical hardships, controlling the tongue, enduring personal harm to protect the church influence, making sacrifices for the good of others, and living by Christian convictions in the face of ridicule. These are all beautiful to God. And then 1 Timothy 4:8 says physical exercise has some value, but spiritual exercise is much more important. It promises a reward in both this life and next. So, and I will say it is hard because our whole country the whole world really set up based on beauty, especially for women. Women are, if we're being honest with ourselves, our value is based on beauty. You get certain things because you're beautiful. So it is hard when you realize, it is hard when you realize that you don't fit into that. But I just think the only thing I can think of is just like everybody just turn your focus to like, okay, this is what God is saying. And like there's things that we can all work on. I'll say for myself, losing some weight. Some other people may be wearing deodorant more. Other people, wearing clothes that fit your body type. There's definitely things we can do, but I think like if we can like try to focus on, okay, this is what God is saying about beauty. These are beautiful things. Like, and it's things that are outside of like, this isn't what, humanity cares, but not really. Like humanity cares because that's what you need to get by in life. But come on, people truly, God truly looks at your heart, and that is really what's so important. And that is, I think, what we need to be like trying to focus on when we start feeling bad about ourselves, just kind of thinking inner beauty, thinking of, okay, these attributes that I have? Do I show mercy? Do I hunger and thirst for righteousness? Am I making sacrifices for the good of others? Like these are things that, you might not get on the cover of Vogue. Okay, but 1 Timothy 4:8, it promises a reward in both this life and next.
Exactly.
So that's just what I wanted to say, because when I heard that, my first thought was like, oh goodness, that's so relatable. And if I can relate to that, then other people can. And that's also really sad to be in that place and then to kind of be like praised for it is just sad.
Well, our body is such an earthly thing, and we're constantly reminded not to place our trust or our value in earthly things. And that doesn't just mean money, which is probably what our first thought is, but anything earthly, anything that's inherently earthly. That doesn't mean don't value your body. That doesn't mean don't value your money. Doesn't mean don't value your earthly possessions, but it means don't place your final worth and look farther than those things. So I love that you connected that to your own experience. I think that this is such a topic that we need to be talking about, and I think it's beautiful that you were able to be like, in a way, I know what that feels like, and I'm going to share that tonight because it's vulnerable, it's honest, and you shared how you are working on overcoming that, and that's something that so many people will not be able to grasp.
And that's another thing too. I'm working on it. I think that sometimes people think that everybody's kind of like arrived, but no, like I'm working on that. And I know that people listening, some of you are working on that. I know that if I could have a dinner date with Dylan, I'd let him know, like, this is something, like, hey, you're trying to work on your relationship with God. Like, how about let's think about this things, and, how do we, have you talked to a Christian therapist? There's so many things, but like, this is just something that like, we all, not all of us, but like a lot of us can really relate to. And I think that that's why so many, like now that I'm saying it out loud, I think that's why Dylan was able to get such a huge following and people kind of ignore it. Cause like sometimes, you know, I'll see him on stuff and like, it'll be weird because people will be acting like he's this like big, great, like
God
almost. And I'm like, why on earth? Like, I don't get the appeal. Like, why? And I think it's because he has found things to tap in that all of us can relate to on a different level.
And that's part of what Matt Walsh is not doing effectively.
True that. Yeah.
It's that emotion that he is actively repulsing people.
Yeah.
And Mallory, I think it's such a testament to our firm belief in the conservative Christian value, because by holding our party accountable, we're going to actually make progress. It's when we start blindly following this philosophy and this movement that becomes really, really dangerous. So I think it's a testament to, I mean, how devoted we are that we're willing to say we're doing this wrong.
Yes. And once again, we're not alone in this. So, you know, in the comments, like, let us know, how do you feel about this conversation? Let us know, like, what do you think we should be saying for Dylan? And we also have to think about, like, his supporters, because that's the other aspect of it. There's people who don't even, who didn't even really know who he is, but, you know, everybody and their grandmother talks about it. And then, you know, Matt Walsh tweets, you know, some really mean, terrible things. And now they're like, oh, I kind of feel bad for him. So, like, how should we be doing this? Because clearly what we're doing isn't working.
No.
It's not working. So what can we do? And then, so yeah, let us know in the comments. Maybe that'll be the question for Spotify. Let us know what we can do, for this, because sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's also okay for those of you who don't vibe with this kind of conservatism. That's why we're those other girls.
Oh, yes.
Got a plug.
Yes. Exactly. I was going to ask something else, but you said it. That's why we're other girls. So because we are at almost 50 minutes, I'm going to